In the 1940s, this was hailed as the absolute cutting edge of mental health treatment. It was seen as a miracle cure. Its inventor even received a Nobel Prize for it. But the procedure itself was shockingly, brutally simple. A doctor would take an instrument, often something as common as an ice pick, insert it just above the patient's eye, and then swirl it around inside their brain. The goal was to cure madness. But what it often did instead was steal the very soul of the person. This is the dark and twisted story of the lobotomy. To understand why such a horrifying procedure ever became popular, we have to look back at the state of mental health care before modern medicine. In the early 20th century, mental asylums were often hell on earth. They were desperately overcrowded, frequently violent, and filled with a sense of utter hopelessness. Doctors and staff were overwhelmed, struggling to manage patients with severe conditions without any effective treatments. They were desperate for anything, absolutely anything, that could calm the chaos and bring some semblance of order to the wards. And into this desperate situation stepped a man named Dr. Walter Freeman. Freeman was a complex figure, part ambitious neurologist, part charismatic showman. He developed a theory that mental illness was caused by overactive emotions or faulty wiring in the frontal lobes of the brain. His proposed solution was direct and radical: sever the connections in the frontal lobe, essentially disconnecting the part of the brain responsible for complex thought and emotion from the rest. He believed this would silence the turmoil in a patient's mind. Freeman didn't just pioneer the technique. He perfected a streamlined version called the transorbital lobotomy. This is where the ice pick comes in. He realized he could bypass the need for drilling through the skull. Instead, he could lift the eyelid place, the sharp point of a long, thin instrument called a leucotome, or famously a customized ice pick, into the corner of the eye socket, and then tap it with a mallet to break through the thin layer of bone into the brain. Then, he would simply sweep the instrument back and forth to sever the neural fibers. The entire procedure could be done in under 10 minutes. He wasn't content to stay in one hospital. Freeman wanted to spread his gospel of the lobotomy far and wide. He created what he called the Lobotomobile, a van that he used as a mobile clinic. He drove this van across the United States, from major cities to small towns, promoting his procedure. He performed thousands of lobotomies, often in non-sterile environments like hotel rooms, private homes, and the back offices of small clinics. He was known for his theatrical flair, sometimes even using both hands to perform 2 lobotomies at once. He was a performer, and the human brain was his stage. For his tools, he famously used a common mallet he picked up from a local hardware store. The procedure became disturbingly popular. It was seen as a quick fix. Families who couldn't handle a relative's erratic behavior, and institutions that couldn't manage their patient populations, saw the lobotomy as a viable solution. It was a way to make troubled people quiet, docile, and manageable. The problem was what they lost in the process. Perhaps the most famous and tragic victim of this procedure was a nameless patient in a crowded asylum. It was Rosemary Kennedy, the sister of future President John F. Kennedy. Rosemary was a vibrant and beautiful young woman, but she struggled with developmental delays and what were described as intense mood swings. As she grew into her 20s, her behavior became more challenging for the family. Her father, Joseph P. Kennedy, was a man with immense political ambition for his sons. He worried that Rosemary's unpredictable behavior could cause a scandal that would ruin the family's public image and political future. So, in 1941, without even telling his wife Rose, he arranged for 23-year-old Rosemary to undergo a prefrontal lobotomy. According to accounts of the surgery, she was kept awake during the procedure and asked to sing songs and tell stories. The doctor stopped cutting when she fell silent. The result was an absolute catastrophe. Rosemary went into that room as a spirited, if troubled, young woman. She came out with the mental capacity of a toddler. She lost the ability to speak coherently, she could no longer walk properly, and her personality was erased. She became incontinent and was left with a vacant stare. Her vibrant life was over. The Kennedy family, to hide the disastrous outcome, sent her away to an institution where she lived in seclusion, hidden from the public eye for the rest of her long life. Her story was a closely guarded secret for decades. Rosemary was just one of an estimated 50,000 people who were lobotomized in the United States alone, with tens of thousands more performed around the world. For many, the surgery worked in the crudest sense of the word. It did make patients quieter. It did make them more manageable. Aggressive and agitated individuals often became passive and childlike. But this piece came at a terrible cost: their humanity. Patients lost their spark, their creativity, their ability to feel deep emotion, and their capacity for independent thought. They were living, breathing shells of their former selves. The soul had been scraped away. So, what stopped this medical nightmare? The tide finally began to turn in the 1950s with a true medical breakthrough: the development of antipsychotic medications, like Thorazine. For the first time, doctors had a non-surgical way to effectively manage the symptoms of severe mental illness. These medications weren't a perfect cure, but they offered a way to help patients without destroying their brains. As these drugs became more widely available, the lobotomy quickly fell out of favor. The medical community began to look back in horror at what they had championed. Dr. Freeman himself became an outcast, a relic of a brutal era. Today, the lobotomy is remembered as one of the most misguided and barbaric chapters in the history of medicine. It stands as a chilling reminder that in our quest to heal, we must be incredibly careful. It shows us how good intentions, when mixed with arrogance and desperation, can lead to devastating consequences. The story of the lobotomy is a powerful lesson. Sometimes the proposed cure can be far, far worse than the disease. Thank you for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as it is tragic, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more deep dives into history's most compelling stories. See you next time.